What's up, Lucky Gamers? It's Lucky Lux. I know it's been a while since I made content. Been spending a lot of time with the girls, my wife, because I just enjoy family time. So I apologize if I stop making videos or content. But I love my family, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, we're gonna be talking about 1.4. It's gonna be dropping tomorrow, and so I want to make sure that you guys are prepared. For those of you who don't quite have enough summons to get both characters, right? You're having to decide between 37 or 6, right? So we're going to be talking about that, and I'm going to be using a lot of CN content to help make this decision, because as it is in 1.4, it's going to be a little bit harder, but because we have the insight and the crystal ball of CN, I'm going to go ahead and use that to help affect the decision. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into the video. All right, guys, so let's get into it, and I'm going to try to not make this too long because I can go on all day talking about these characters, but I'm going to use my experience and how I feel about these characters, and also a lot of things like I've just heard from people while they've seen me use these characters over the past few months with using 37 and 6, right? So let's talk about 37. So she is a DPS, but also going to be a sub DPS depending on the porches that you have. She does crit. She's a crit character, and she does Genesis damage, and she can crit that Genesis damage. She's really useful in those in that content where Genesis damage is needed or AoE is needed, right? The Hydra, and then also the other new raid boss that is Spirit with the multiple limbs, she's really good for. So she's good for 2 raid bosses, right? You could technically say 3 Gold in the Cave, but I really wouldn't put her in Gold in the Cave. But she has 2 raid bosses that she's really good in. She excels at Utu because there's plenty of cards that works well with her in Utu, and she's really good in Limbo anytime there's star content, right? She does a lot of damage in those things because she's AoE and she can crit that Genesis damage whenever an enemy is tanky, right? Single target damage, she doesn't excel to as much, right? And then let's be honest, 37, if she's not doing follow-up attacks and she's missing a big part of her kit, so you want to find a way to get Eureka off to her really quickly. So you would want to support like being Babel or Isolde or Lilia or Ezra, even Joe, that can really help her, right? And all these characters help make 37 better. 37 doesn't make any of these characters better, right? 37 does not make Joe better. Joe makes 37 better. So let's think about that when we're thinking about 37. 37 is going to be a character that is going to be an investment. As other characters come out that have follow-up attacks, they are going to help 37 be able to do more of her follow-up attacks, right? So she's going to be really dependent on those characters. With that, right, I have to be honest, when it comes to universal, she's not as universal as 6, right? 6 is a character that can do buffs and debuffs, and these are all within a collection of 6 buffs and 6 debuffs. They can apply 1 random every turn, and he is intellect, so he's not going to have any weaknesses most of the time, and he will be able to be a 4th man for a lot of your teams, right? He is a really good pairing with Joe because Joe wants people to have buffs, and that helps her with her liquor stacks. But it doesn't mean that 6 is is the only one who can help her get liquor stacks, right? And let's talk about his buffs. 6 isn't really good for a 3-man team because he doesn't really amp up damage that crazy. Like, he's really decent, but he doesn't amp up damage really crazy, but he's just a really good fit, especially if you're wanting to get less buffers, because in raid teams and the 4-man content that he's really good in, he's just a good character to just put there and kind of ignore because he just gives you the random buffs and he uses stuff every now and then, right? He can go into a poison team, he can go into the crit team, he can go into any of the follow-up teams, 37's teams, Joe's teams, Diaz teams. He can go into all these people's teams, especially because he has the Empower incantation that he can give to everybody, right? And I know a lot of people rave about his ult, but if you have a P06, you're not going to be using up the enhanced damage on the ult very much because you have to make a decision. Are you going to do Empower incantation, or are you going to do a stronger ult from 6, right? Which, you know, in my opinion, using the Empower incantation for the hyper carry is going to be way better than trying to get damage out with 6, even though 6 has a really good ult. But like, come on, it's Empower incantation, right? Like, it's just really strong. Now let's really get critical about these characters. Now, there are a lot of characters coming out that are really crazy and are gonna be crazy after 37. And 37 is a DPS. So that means she will eventually have characters that'll be better than her or do more than her in certain situations, right? If we look at 37 compared to like Regulus, compared to Lilia, compared to Charlie, these characters are pretty crazy, especially with people who get a... Where is my Charlie? Especially people who get a P5 Charlie, right? P5 Charlie does a lot of damage for people, and so with 37, I feel the only reason why they're getting 37 is because 37 does really well in Hydra. If Hydra didn't require 37, I feel like a lot of people wouldn't get her as bad, right? Because, like, what she does is cool, but a lot of people are convinced that if she has no portraits, then she's not that good. In my opinion, if she does, it's not necessarily the portraits, it's the teammates. If she doesn't have specific teammates, then she's not going to be as good for you. Unless you get her up to P3, because it gives you the extra Eureka whenever you ult. It's going to be really hard to get that follow-up attack unless you play her a specific way, where you're being really AP greedy to get that follow-up attack, because her Psycube is based off of that, and a lot of her damage goes into that follow-up. So, like, you know, with that, you have to do that. And before, a lot of you be like, oh, but when I get Joe, that solves the problem. Okay, I mean, but that's like, you know, 3 patches after, because you have to go for the whole patch of 1.4 and then the whole patch of 1.5, and then, you know, not 3, 2 patches after, and then, you know, you have 1.6, and hopefully you have enough gems to get her, right? So that's the thing, is that 37 is just waiting for better teammates. And Isolde, who just came out, is also a character who does follow-up attacks, so, you know, that is another person who you can pair with as well, right? But with Joe, you then have to ask, is 37 the best teammate to go with Joe? Because I don't think so. But we'll test that with a new raid. Okay. Now when it comes to 6, my thought on 6. 6 is a really great universal pick if you're wanting to get a 4th man on your raid teams and your 4-man teams. But the problem with him being super universal means he does not excel at a lot of things on those teams. In the poison, well, specifically with reality damage, if you're the type of person who gets every character, right? We're not specifically talking only free-to-plays, but if you're the type who gets every character, 6 then is not the best character for like all the teams right now. You have Getian and Isolde who are really holding it down with reality, even though a lot of people don't really care for Getian, but with what Isolde and Getian can bring to the reality damage teams, they're really effective. And if you get one of the two and then still get Bjorn Bloom, then those are still really good characters for reality damage. Reality damage has gotten 2 really solid supports for it, while, you know, mental damage has not, which, you know, that's a whole nother conversation. But they have gotten some really good reality damage supports that helps out, which helps make Joe stronger, which helps make Spathadia stronger, helps makes Jessica stronger, Lilia, a knight. Like, they make everybody, like, in reality stronger. Now, 6 is a really good support, especially for mental damage teams, because those characters will especially love the Empower Incantation, and they don't really have a support going for them specifically right now. You have Shemaine and Baby Blue being the mental damage supports. And yes, I said Shemaine, because Shemaine is not as good of a support as the other supports over here in reality damage. He's a universal one as well, and as soon as the mental damage supports comes in, then Shemaine will fall off even more. But that's another conversation. So with 6, he goes really well with mental damage, with being 6 and Shemaine, supporting like Black Dwarf or supporting Melania, wherever she might be in my account. So, and when a mental damage support comes, Shemaine's going to fall off before 6 for those teams, because Black Dwarf loves Empower Incantation, because the higher the level of her skills, the more planets that she gets from them, and then Melania can get either extra Moxie or, you know, steal more Moxie. Like, she really loves that And then same thing with 37. 37 with higher higher level of her skills, she'll be able to do more damage after she ults because it, you know, gives 100% extra damage to those. The other characters, of course, they would love that, but they just have crazy supports. So, with that all being said, with all the positives and negatives for my opinions on using the characters and my insight, who do I think is better? Now, at the end of the day, let's be honest. If I had to choose of a character that I wanted to have a longer standing in, I would honestly choose Six. Okay? Six is going to be more worth it. He's more universal. He allows you to get less characters because he will be a solid fourth man for a very long time. A very long time. Even though I said reality damage characters have their supports, you can still opt out in getting one of them and pair them with Six, right? You can still pair Six with the Sol Day, Six with Getty 6 with Bighorn Bloom, 6 with Shemaine, 6 with even Baby Blue, 6 with Pickles, 6 with Anna and Lee, 6 with Sonetto. They can all go together and it will work, right? 6 with Ezra. Actually, I keep forgetting Ezra because he's like right up here and I don't include him, but like he can pair with everybody and he really works. 37 cannot go everywhere, right? And again, this is for people who have to choose. If you can get both, then get both. But if you had to choose, I would have to say Six. Okay. And that's just from my history of using the character and just from what I've seen. I put Six everywhere. It got to the point people are like, bro, use another support. You're using Six everywhere. And so I was like, all right, I'll try to use more people. So I started leveling up more characters. But Six is just really good. Now, his biggest thing is he looks like an NPC. All right, I don't care. I said it. He looks like an NPC and his design is terrible. But he's effective. So anyways, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Hopefully it helped you guys in your decision for those of you who are still on the fence of which ones you wanted to get. Let me know down in the comment section if you disagree with what I said or if you totally agree or if you just have something to add an extra input, right? Please make sure that you sub up to the channel because we do videos and we do streams on R99 content. And also make sure you click the bell that when you know when I go live. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You lucky gamers, have a good one. Lucky Lux out.